Hello, my lovely rose garden. This is Avalon.
And Ray.
And Winnie. You probably couldn't hear her, but she made a little sound.
A little merp.
And we're back with more Throne of Glass. This time it's a long chapter, Chapter 7. They are arriving in the capital.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get some setting descriptions. Hopefully they don't make us cringe.
Hopefully they don't... The chapter doesn't start with them having already been in the capital for a week and everything is told in flashback.
Let's find out. Trumpeters signaled their arrival as they passed through the looming alabaster walls of Rifthold. Oh good, present happenings. We're here in the moment.
Yay.
Crimson flags depicting gold wyverns flapped in the wind above the capital city. The cobblestone streets were cleared of traffic, and Selena, unchained, dressed, painted, and seated in front of Kale, frowned as the odor of the city met her nose. You know, that's a mood. After having lived in a city for most of my life and then moving to the countryside, now when we go to visit the city, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is that? And you're like, oh, it's always smelled like that.
Well, okay, I'm just over here like, okay, but you literally worked in a salt mine as a slave and you were like unwashed and probably standing
Yeah,
in
how much
feces.
worse could this be?
Well, like... Okay. And also, this is apparently, supposedly pre-industrial, right? So the city can't smell that much worse than literally standing in a salt mine stewing in your own sewage.
Who knows? Beneath the smell of spices and horses lay a foundation of filth, blood, and spoiled milk. Okay.
Why is spoiled milk? Who's tossing? Who's just out here with spoiled milk?
Also, spices and horses, that's a pretty thick layer to... Like, you need a jackhammer of a nose to drill through those layers of scent, alright? That's pretty overpowering. The air held a hint of the salty waters of the Avery, different from the salt of Endovir. This brought with it warships from every ocean in Aeriel, merchant vessels crammed with goods and slaves.
So why doesn't it smell like fish?
And fishing boats with half-rotted, scale-covered flesh that people somehow managed to eat.
Okay. Wait, what? They're eating rotted fish? And they're not dying? That's like Mercury Poison 101, baby.
From bearded peddlers to servant girls carrying armfuls of hat boxes, everyone paused as the flag bearers trotted proudly ahead and Dorian Havillard waved. Hat boxes?
Hat boxes.
What year is it?
I don't know, man.
Like, I hear hat boxes and I think, like, 1800s?
I mean, I guess hats can be in any box, but at any point in time. But yeah, that makes me think, like, Victorian England.
See, I'm, like, brain poisoned by Disney, so I immediately jump to the Hatbox Ghost, and I'm like, yeah, he looks like he could be from, like, the mid-18 to late 1800s.
He's Victorian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's when Victorian is. I don't know.
It lasted a while. But, like, okay, so... See, I'm even more brain rotten by Disney in the way that I think hat boxes, and I'm like, oh, like the one that Lady was presented to.
Yeah, like...
Darling in. But
or
yeah.
Jim Deere.
No.
Darling, yes, because...
Don't you correct me about
I'm
Lady
so
and the
sorry.
Tramp.
I'm so sorry.
How could you?
They followed the crown prince, who, like Kaol, was swathed in a red cape. Him and Kaol are wearing the same cape? That doesn't sound right.
That sounds very, strange.
Pinned over the left breast with a brooch fashioned after the royal seal. The prince wore a golden crown upon his neat hair, and she had to concede that he looked rather regal. Young women flocked to them, waving.
Well, I mean, by definition, he would have to look regal, because regal just means looking like a king.
He sets the standard. Whatever he is doing, it's regal.
Like, it's a standout, and it's something that you have to admit when it's someone who isn't literally royalty.
Oh boy, here, we're gonna get some shit talking about other girls.
Oh no, my least favorite thing in any YA or new adult fiction where the main character is female.
Young women flocked to them, waving. Dorian winked and grinned. Selena couldn't help but notice the sharp stares from the same women when they beheld her in the prince's retinue. She knew how she appeared, seated atop a horse like some prize lady being brought to the castle. So Selena only smiled at them, tossed her hair, and batted her eyelashes at the prince's back. Her arms stung. "What?" she hissed at the captain of the guard as he pinched her. "You look ridiculous," he said through his teeth, smiling at the crowd. She mirrored his expression. "They're ridiculous. Be
Why?
quiet and act normally."
Why are they ridiculous?
His breath was hot on her neck.
How are they behaving ridiculously in any way?
"They are waving to the prince." "I should jump from the horse and run," she said, waving at a young man who gaped at what he thought was a court lady's attention. "I'd vanish in an instant." "Yes," he said, "you'd vanish with 3 arrows buried in your spine." "Such pleasant talk." They entered the shopping district, where the crowd swelled between the trees lining the broad avenues of white stone. The glass storefronts were nearly invisible beyond the crowd, but a ravenous sort of hunger arose in her as they passed shop after shop.
Okay, so the storefronts have glass. We're coming back to the glass thing from last episode. Not just royalty has glass. What year is it?
I don't fucking know.
And
it's not like you have to care particularly either, but I'm trying to find an aesthetic here, and I can't settle on one.
Like, that's my main issue, is that having a year at least sort of narrows down the mental image of this place in my mind. I like having... Like, we have a shopping district. So, that could be... anywhere from, like...
Anywhere, honestly.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking Europe, so that would be probably... Or, like, northern to western Europe, I assume. Northwest Europe is my guess for where this is taking place, since Sarah J. Maas kind of sticks in, like, especially the UK area. Am I boring you?
No, I'm just... this is, I guess, supposed to be Cinderella, maybe, so I'm guessing it's France.
Maybe.
But there's mention of Fae and shit, so there's probably some Celtic, although the Celtic people did occupy France briefly.
Fae are supposed to be all over. Like,
yeah, but, like... I don't fucking know.
But yeah, I'm just over here, like, so that would be like Renaissance in that era when shopping districts were a thing. So Renaissance and up.
I'm just going with low-tech 1800s.
But that's so boring.
At least it's not the A Court of Thorns and Roses series where they're literally wearing jeans and sweaters, okay?
What?
Yeah, reckon with that. Yeah.
Jeans?
Yeah.
Jeans! Jeans were made in America!
Apple bottom jeans, boots with the jeans.
I'm gonna die!
Whole club was looking at jeans. I'm pretty sure they have clubs too.
They have clubs? Well, I mean, okay.
Not bardcore clubs, just clubs.
There were like dance halls and discotheques and stuff in Europe. Like discotheques, I'm talking. Discotheques, which are modern day clubs. So it's not just an America thing. But jeans are such an American thing. Especially, in a world that is assumedly, like, somehow pre-industrial, and there's Fae.
Did you ever have to watch that really kind of fucked up movie about the inventor of Levi's jeans?
No.
That somehow also tied in to the song My Darling Clementine?
No.
Let me know in the chat if any of you know what the fuck I'm talking about, or if I just fever dreamed that into existence, but I swear to God, my teacher, when we were studying California history, had us watch this, like, really weird, like, obviously made for TV, I don't know, maybe half an hour long movie and it was all like my darling Clementine, and Clementine was like a manic pixie Western dream girl, and and the guy, the main character, was named Levi, and he went on to like invent jeans, and it was like kind of a throwaway gag, but that is what is in my mind every time I see a pair of Levi's jeans. I swear to God, I'm not making this up.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up later and I'll put it in the chat.
Stare into the void. Oh.
You have your tangent, I have mine. Alright, let's get back to this shit.
So angry. I wish I knew what this place looked like. Or what kinds of clothes they were wearing.
I'm more just into her whole, ew, the nobility is so corrupt and awful. Shopping. Women be shopping. And again, not that you can't have women with feminine interests like shopping. That's fine. The problem is that it clashes with other character traits.
Yeah.
Each window displayed dresses and tunics, which stood proudly behind lines of sparkling jewelry and broad-rimmed hats clumped together like bouquets of flowers.
Broad-rimmed hats? So we're past like hoods and veils.
You gotta give it up. You're never gonna get it.
I'm never gonna give it up. Never gonna give it up. Never gonna let it down.
Stop making me laugh. My allergies.
Suffer.
They're gonna die.
If I have to suffer, you have to suffer.
The listeners, they're gonna die when I start coughing.
They will also suffer as I suffer.
Above it all, the glass castle loomed so high she had to tilt her head back to see the uppermost towers. Why had they chosen such a long and inconvenient route? Did they really wish to parade about? Yes, you dumb bitch.
You know, if this is supposed to be like Victorian and whatnot, it would be way more interesting if they went in by train at least.
Like, honestly, what I am picturing in my mind at this point is just Main Street at Disneyland. Okay, it's Disney Fantasy Past, alright? That's where we're set. Cinderella, Tangled...
So that's, like, so American. Like...
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I'm just all like, why don't you just make it Victorian? Why don't you just have them come in by train? At least I would care a little bit for just a moment.
Ah, yes. You see, we're autistic, and trains are a big part of our culture.
It's true.
At least for you. I'm a dinosaur's autistic. We're two very different breeds.
It's fine. We managed to coexist somehow.
Selena swallowed. There was a break in the buildings, and sails spread like moths' wings greeted them as they turned onto the avenue along the Avery. Ships sat docked along the pier, a mess of rope and netting with sailors calling to each other, too busy to notice the royal procession. False. At the sound of a whip, her head snapped to the side. Slaves staggered down the gangplank of a merchant ship, a mix of conquered nations bound together. Each of them had the hollow, raging face she'd seen so many times before. Most of the slaves were prisoners of war, rebels who survived the butchering blocks and endless lines of Aderlin's armies. Some were probably people who had been caught or accused of trying to practice magic, but others were just ordinary folk in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now that she noticed, there were countless chained slaves working the docks, lifting and sweating, holding parasols and pouring water, eyes on the ground or the sky, never on what was before them. She wanted to leap from her horse and run to them, or to simply scream that she wasn't part of this prince's court, that she had no hand in bringing them here, chained and starved and beaten, that she had worked and bled with them, with their families and friends. She was not like these monsters that destroyed everything.
Girl.
That she had done something nearly 2 years ago when she had freed almost 200 slaves from the pirate lord.
She's giving, I'm a good white, I promise.
She had done something nearly 2 years ago when she freed almost 200 slaves from the pirate lord. Can we fucking see her do that? Will she? Even that, though, wasn't enough. Okay, but is she going to do anything to help these people? Is my question. Is she going to care enough to act on their behalf?
She straight up, like, out of sight, out of minded all the slaves in the salt mines. Like, the moment they were out of sight, she was just like, ooh, pretty trees.
Yeah, there's And coming back to this years after the fact, because I know we read this once and I'm pretty sure we pointed this out before, but coming back to it now, a few years older and more mature, there is something deeply uncomfortable about this white, blonde, supposedly, probably secret princess, focusing so much on the plight of these slaves that, if I am recalling correctly, she never actually does anything to help during the events of the book. She'll talk about how she totally did all this cool and awesome stuff off screen to help the slaves out, and how she totally cares about their struggles, but she never actually, like, does anything, at least in this book. It is the first of a series. Maybe she goes back and helps them out later, but judging this book on its own merits as the first of the series, it's very performative.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that as a very fucking white person.
I'm just over here like, she's really out here being all like, I care about slaves, I promise.
Thoughts and prayers.
I'm not rich like these people.
Honestly, we're gonna have to start coming up with some shorthand to get through these reviews. So anytime something like this comes up, I'm just gonna say thoughts and prayers. Because that's really what it comes down to. It's like she would probably make like a sad Twitter post about it.
Well, I mean,
and be like, that's activism.
Let's be real. People aren't listening for the book. They're listening for our pained rants and suffering.
That's true. It's very true.
We don't need shorthand here. You get all the suffering, free range, and high grade.
And if you don't think that you could wait a week for more suffering, you can join us over on Patreon. We post these way faster up there. By the time the second chapter was out publicly, chapter 6 had been posted on Patreon. So you're getting quite a few weeks advance on these reviews if you join the Patreon. And not only that, but you also get to join the Rose Garden Discord server and see pictures of our cat. Mm-hmm. And at higher tiers, you get your name in the credits of the videos. You can get your name in the credits of my books. And if you don't want to join the Patreon for money, you could actually just follow us on there for free and at least get access to the public channels of the Discord server. And when I say public, I mean there are some exclusive channels that are just for patrons, and then there are some channels that are accessible to everyone on the server. But we don't just invite everybody to the server. You would need to be following us on Patreon, and then you'll get an invite link to the server. So that, hope you'll join us. It's a very fun, good time. We just finished watching Fruits Basket, so I'm sure there'll be some shit about that in there.
And we finally finished watching Fruits Basket.
And I had never gone beyond, like, volume 14 of the manga or something, so most of the ending was unknown.
Just get smacked with all of the crying. Yeah, everyone crying constantly.
I was just sitting there and I was like, remember when this was a show where people turned into animals?
Amazing.
Well,
I mean, the trauma was there from, like, early on.
Yeah,
like,
but...
Volume 2, we get Hattori's story and it all goes downhill from there.
I mean, yeah, but at least there were, like, fun little
guys.
Little bunnies.
Little animals.
Yeah. Okay, back to this shit. Mm-hmm. The city was suddenly separate, ripped from her. People still waved and bowed, cheering and laughing, throwing flowers and other nonsense before their horses. She had difficulty breathing. Sooner than she would have liked, the iron gates...
She was like having fun and making fun of, like, the girls who were flirting with the...
Yeah, it's that total whiplash.
But now that she sees the slave, she's all like, oh, I can't stand doing this. I can't stand being here. It's like, shut the fuck up.
It's the tone whiplash, once again.
That's how you know it's performative. And, it's not something that she's actually sickened by. It's just something that she's sickened by in comparison to the suffering that she just now noticed is happening.
Yeah, I'm like, and you're not going to just, find a way to, like, slip one of your jewels off your dress or whatever and just flick it over to the side for one of these people? Mm-hmm. Okay. Sooner than she would have liked, the iron and glass gate of the castle appeared. Oh yeah, glass gate. That
That'd sure keep people out.
I'm sure they've invented bulletproof glass. I'm gonna start.
They haven't invented guns, but they have invented bulletproof glass. Unless they have invented guns. Gun!
Latticework doors opened, and a dozen guards flanked the cobblestone path that led through the archway. Spears erect, I'm sure, they held rectangular shields. Their eyes were dark beneath bronze helmets. Each wore a red cape. Sounds like a bad choice, but okay. Their armor, while tarnished, was well crafted from copper and leather. Beyond the archway sloped a road, lined with trees of gold and silver. Glass lampposts sprouted up between the hedges bordering the path.
Okay, so they have lampposts.
The sounds of the city vanished as they passed under another arch, this one made of sparkling glass, and then the castle rose before them. Chaol sighed as he dismounted in the open courtyard. Hands pulled Selena from the saddle and set her on wobbly legs. Glass gleamed everywhere, and a hand clamped on her shoulder. Stable boys quietly and quickly led her horse away. Chaol pulled her to his side, keeping a firm grip on her cloak as the crown prince approached. 600 rooms, military and servants' quarters, 3 gardens, a game park, and stables on either side, said Dorian, staring at his home. Who could ever need so much space? Oh, don't forget, though, Dorian's very, very, quote-unquote, woke, derogatory.
He's down with the suffering of people. He knows all about it.
He is woke in the way that people who don't understand what woke is use it.
Yeah.
She managed a weak smile, a bit baffled by his sudden charm. I don't know how you can sleep at night with only a wall of glass keeping you from death. She glanced up, but quickly lowered her focus to the ground. She wasn't afraid of heights, but the thought of being so high up with nothing but glass to protect her made her stomach clench. Okay, so it is fragile. It sounds like a great material to build buildings out of.
I mean, or it's like just really thick glass and she just... the see-throughness of it, maybe?
Oh. Then you're like me, Dorian chuckled. Thank the gods I gave you rooms in the stone castle. I'd hate for you to be uncomfortable. Deciding that scowling at him wouldn't be the wisest decision, Selena looked instead toward the massive castle gates. The doors were made of cloudy red glass, gaping at her like the mouth of a giant. But she could see the interior wall was made of stone, and it seemed to her that the glass castle had been dropped on top of the original building. What a ridiculous idea, a castle made of glass. I mean... Yeah, okay, same. Yeah. Agree.
Yeah, hard agree.
Well, said Dorian, you've fattened up a bit, and your skin is some color now. Welcome to my home, Selena Sardothian. He nodded at a few passing nobles who scraped and bowed. The competition begins tomorrow. Captain Westfall will show you to your chambers. Tomorrow? Cutting it close, guys.
Yeah.
She rolled her shoulders and searched for any sign of her competitors. No one else seemed to be arriving, though. Just set her up at a disadvantage, that's fine. The prince nodded to another flock of cooing courtiers and didn't look at either the assassin or the captain of the guard as he spoke again. I have to meet with my father, he said, running his gaze along the body of a particularly pretty lady. He winked at her, and she hid her face behind a lace fan as she continued her walk. Dorian nodded to Chaol. I'll see you later tonight. Without saying a word to Selena, he strode up the steps and to the palace, his red cape blowing in the wind. The crown prince lived up to his word. Her chambers were in a wing of the stone castle, and much bigger than she anticipated. They consisted of a bedroom with an attached bathing chamber and a dressing room, a small dining room, and a music and gaming room. Each room was furnished in gold and crimson, her bedroom also decorated with a giant tapestry along one wall, with couches and deep-cushioned chairs scattered in a tasteful manner. Her balcony overlooked a fountain in one of the gardens, and whichever it was beautiful, never mind the guards she spotted posted beneath. Chaol left her, and Selena didn't wait to hear the door shut before closing herself in her bedroom. Between her murmurs of appreciation during I'm just calling him Cole now, Chaol's brief tour of her rooms, she'd counted the windows, 12, the exits, 1, and the guards posted outside her door, windows, and balcony, 9. They were each armed with a sword, knife, and crossbow. Okay, they've got crossbows. And though they'd been alert while their captain passed by, she knew a crossbow wasn't exactly a light weight to bear for hours on end. Selena crept to her bedroom window, pressing herself against the marble wall, and glanced down. Sure enough, the guards had already strapped the crossbows across their backs. It would waste precious seconds to grab the weapon and load it, seconds when she could take their swords, cut their throats, and vanish into the gardens. She smiled as she stepped fully in front of the window to study the garden. Its far border ended in the trees of a game park. She knew enough about the castle to know that she was on the southern side, and if she went through the game park, she'd reach a stone wall and the Avery River beyond. We're not really commenting so much here because it's literally just setting description.
Yeah.
Just in case you wondered if we had died. Selena opened and closed the doors of her armoire, dresser, and vanity. Of course there weren't any weapons, not even a fire poker, but she grabbed the few bone hairpins left in the back of a dresser drawer and some string she found in a mending basket in her giant dressing room. No needles. She knelt on the carpeted floor of the dressing room, which was void of clothes, and, one eye to the door behind her, made quick work of the hairpins, snapping their heads off before binding them all together with the string. When she finished, she held up the object and frowned. Well, it wasn't a knife, but clustered together like that, the jagged points of the broken pins could do some damage. She tested the tips with a finger and winced as a shard of bone pricked her calloused skin. Yes, it would certainly hurt if she jammed it into a guard's neck, and disable him long enough for her to grab his weapons. Okay, see, this is the shit I wanted to see her doing.
Mm-hmm.
Them giving her supposedly nothing, and then her MacGyvering it into a weapon.
Yeah.
Finally, on page 44, something that makes me actually think she might be an assassin.
Yeah, because before this, she was just all like, I'm gonna kill everyone here. And it's all like, yeah, sure. I'm sure every edgy teenager thinks that.
Selena re-entered the bedroom, yawning, and stood on the edge of the mattress to tuck the makeshift weapon into one of the folds of the partial canopy over her bed. When she'd concealed it, she glanced around the room again. Something about the dimensions seemed a little off, something with the height of the walls, but she couldn't be sure. Regardless, the canopy provided plenty of hiding places. What else could she take without them noticing? Cale had probably had the rooms looked over before they arrived. She listened at the bedroom door for any signs of activity. When she was certain no one was in her chamber, she entered the foyer and strode through it to the gaming room. She beheld the billiard cues along the far wall and the heavy colored balls stacked on the green felt table, and grinned. Cale wasn't nearly as smart as he thought he was. Fuck it, I'm Googling.
What year billiards were made?
When were billiards invented? I don't know if that's grammatically correct, but fuck it. When? When did we have billiards?
When did it originate?
The first billiard balls were invented in the 15th century when France turned it into a lawn game. So these are just the balls. The first rule book was published in 1859.
Well, I mean, that's
so I would say like
large publishing.
Early 1800s, late 1700s.
Is like around the time that we could probably guess.
Okay, but it's not a lawn game. It's a table. So when were billiards tables? Because it's small enough to be in her room. Okay, well, this is just a patent, 1865. Okay, earliest known indoor billiards tables emerged in Europe in the 1600s as simple wooden rectangles with plank playing surfaces. First tables using slate beds appeared around 1825 to 1830, marking the genesis of the modern pool table. So it could be anywhere from the 1600s to the early 1800s.
I would probably guess early 1800s.
Yeah, based on everything else, we're putting it early 1800s. So slightly before the Victorian age?
Yeah.
Again, well, I'm guessing. I don't have a firm grasp of when the Victorian age began and ended.
It began mid-1800s.
Anywho.
And then ended, like, late 1800s.
Yeah, it's a felt table, so assumedly
it's a
closer to the
one.
1800s.
Yeah, it's a modern one.
Ultimately, she left the billiards equipment, if only because it would arouse suspicion if it all disappeared. but it would be easy enough to get a stick if she needed to escape, or to use the dense balls to knock the guards unconscious. Exhausted, she returned to her room and her bedroom, and finally hoisted herself onto the enormous bed. Enormous? Enormous bed. I'm tired. The mattress was so soft that she sank down a few inches, and it was wide enough for 3 people to sleep without noticing each other. Curling on her side, Selena's eyes grew heavier and heavier. I guess she's oversleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
She slept for an hour until a servant announced the arrival of the tailor. So I guess the servant can just,
enter?
Because assumedly the bedroom is not the entrance to her chambers, so nothing sneaks by you, does it, Selena? To outfit her with proper court attire, and thus another hour was spent being measured and pinned and sitting through a presentation of different fabrics and colors. She hated most of them. Remember, she is not like other girls.
I'm just over here, but you have fashion. What?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, you better be saying that, oh, these fabrics are gauche, or you get the fuck out.
Yeah.
A few caught her attention, but when she tried to recommend specific styles that flattered her, she received only the wave of a hand and a curl of the lip. Okay, there we go. Mm-hmm. Consistent character trait. Good job. She considered jabbing one of the tailor's pearl-headed pins through his eye. She bathed, feeling almost as dirty as she had in Endovier, and was grateful for the gentle servants who attended her. Many of the wounds had scabbed or remained as thin white lines, though her back retained most of its damage. After nearly 2 hours of pampering, trimming her hair, shaping her nails, and scraping away the calluses on her feet and hands, Selena grinned at the mirror in the dressing room. Hey, remember those slaves on the dock? Thoughts and prayers. Only in the capital could servants have done such fine work. She looked spectacular, utterly and completely spectacular. She wore a dress with skirts and long sleeves of white, streaked and spotted with orchid purple. The indigo bodice was bordered with a thin line of gold, and an ice-white cape hung from her shoulders.
Oh, surprise! They knew what they were doing after all.
Her hair, half up and twisted with a fuchsia ribbon, fell in loose waves, but her smile faltered as she remembered why exactly she was here. The king's champion, indeed. She looked more like the king's lapdog. Thoughts and prayers. Beautiful, said an older female voice, and Selena pivoted, the yards of cumbersome fabric twisting with her. See, now it's cumbersome.
Girl.
The vibe just back and forth. You know, it reminds me of that whole, and I'm sure we've talked about this already, and I've probably already forgotten it, but the whole 50 Shades of Grey thing, where it's like,
yeah,
you're here for the wealth porn, okay?
Yeah.
If you keep fighting that, then you are robbing your reader of what they came here for.
Yeah.
The love interest is a billionaire. Lean in.
Yeah. I remember we did mention it briefly, and I was just like, yeah, it's that same irritation where it's like, dang, why don't this whole she doth protest too much kind of thing that just gets really wearing and really old.
Yeah,
and it's all like, you've already stated that you have an interest in fashion. This ideally would be cool to you because this is access to fabrics that you probably haven't been able to access since the last time you were a mysterious lost princess.
And I'm just sitting here like, you could use this as a moment. You could have her be admiring herself and then remembering, oh right, they only have this wealth because they raid and plunder it from others, hence slaves. And then she has a consistent, train of thought there.
Yeah.
Or you could have her looking at herself and being like, this is what I should be. Mm-hmm. If I were not forced into the life of assassinry that I apparently didn't want. Mm-hmm. But they haven't made that a character established thing, because she seems to like being an assassin just fine. She seems to really enjoy fucking killing people.
Yeah.
So she could be like, oh, if I was wearing this, I could get so much closer to my target. There are so many things you could do with this instead of what they are going to do with it in this very next line.
Oh, no.
Prepare to cringe. Her corset, the stupid, cursed thing, pushed on her ribs so hard that the breath was sucked from her. This was why she mostly preferred tunics and pants. Since fucking when? Since fucking when does she prefer tunics and pants? She has been drooling over dresses since she got here.
I'm just over here like, if your corset is like digging into you and cutting off your air circulation and all that, it's a poorly fitted corset and you should get it refitted.
I just immediately in my mind, the Karolina Zabrowska video of her like wearing a bra for an hour and like talking about bras the way that we talk about corsets.
Yeah.
Corsets are fucking awesome. Shut the hell up.
There's there's a really good video about a YouTuber with scoliosis, and she wears a corset daily because it helps support her back and like alleviate her back pain. Like, I'm just gonna say it, corsets are really, really cool.
Stop being a pretentious Victorian man about this, SJM.
Yeah, the whole corsets like cut off your air circulation and rearrange your organs and stuff like that was stuff that was made up by Victorian men because they wanted to shame women who were vain and, you know, liked fashion. And, you know, even the few women who did tight lacing, which isn't something that they always did. It was just, you know, it's kind of like when you put on your leather pants for a night of clubbing. You don't live in leather pants.
Speak for yourself.
No one wants to live in leather pants. They're
no, not even the cast of Yu-Gi-Oh wants to live in leather pants.
But yeah,
remember that. Remember leather pants. Take you back to.
I remember leather pants.
Take you back to Little Karibo.
But yeah, it's like no one did that. No one's fucking organs were being rearranged.
I'm just sitting here like, okay, where's the medical records showing all these horrendous health things? Because I guarantee you that if that was happening, we'd know about it. Yeah. There'd be documents, and we would see the physical evidence of it in generations afterward.
I'm just over here like there's such a thing as pregnancy corsets. So, you know, clearly, you know, these things that women were wearing for hundreds of years. And if they were constantly killing women would probably find something else to wear.
Yeah. I'm just saying, we gotta keep going, but I'm just gonna leave it here. The guys who were saying that the corsets were squishing women's organs to the point of literally killing them were the same guys who were saying that women shouldn't ride bikes because their uteruses might fly out. Yeah. Okay, like, same guy. Same guy.
Same guy.
It was just a way to control women and shame them for their interests. It was a woman, large but well contained within the gown of cobalt and peach that marked her as one of the servants of the royal household. Her face... Hang on. Cobalt and peach. Mm-hmm. Desaturate that a bit. Fairy godmother?
Maybe.
Esque?
Maybe.
Older woman. Large frame.
Yeah.
If you desaturate the cobalt and peach, it's giving me fairy godmother vibes.
Maybe.
Her face, while a bit wrinkled, was red-cheeked and finely colored. She bowed. "Philippa Spindlehead," said the woman, rising. "Your personal servant. You must be..." "Selina Sardothian," she said flatly. Philippa's eyes widened. "Keep that to yourself, miss," she whispered. "I'm the only one who knows, and the guards, I suppose." "Then what do people think about all my guards?" she asked. Philippa approached, ignoring Selena's glower as she adjusted the folds of the assassin's gown, fluffing them in the right places. "Oh, the other champions have guards outside their rooms, too. Or people just think you're another lady friend of the prince." Another? Philippa smiled, but kept her eyes upon the dress. He has a big heart, His Highness. And a big
Big dick!
Selena wasn't at all surprised. A favorite with women? It's not my place to speak about His Highness, and you should mind your tongue, too. I'll do as I please. She surveyed the withered face of her servant. Why send such a soft woman to serve her? She'd overpower her in a heartbeat.
Oh my god. You're just really thinking about killing this old woman?
Then you'll find yourself back in those mines, Poppet. Philippa put a hand on her hip. Oh, don't scowl. You'll ruin your face when you look like that. She reached to pinch Selena's cheek, and Selena pulled away. Are you mad? I'm an assassin, not some court idiot. Philippa chuckled. You're still a woman, and so long as you're under my charge, you'll act like one, or weird help me. Selena blinked, then slowly said, You're awfully bold. I hope you don't act like this around court ladies. Ah, there was surely a reason why I was assigned to attend you. You understand what my occupation entails, don't you? No disrespect, but this sort of finery is worth far more than seeing my head roll on the ground. Selena's upper lip pulled back from her teeth as the servant turned from the room. Don't make such a face, Philippa called over her shoulder. It squishes that little nose of yours. Selena could only gape as the servant woman shuffled away.
Best character so far.
Best character. Her and Kaol. Just not giving a single fuck.
Yeah.
The Crown Prince of Aderlin stared at his father unblinkingly, waiting for him to speak. Seated on his glass throne, the King of Aderlin watched him back. Sometimes Dorian forgot how little he looked like his father. It was his younger brother, Holland, who took after the king, with his broad frame and round, sharp-eyed face. But Dorian, tall, toned, and elegant, bore no resemblance to him. And then there was the matter of Dorian's sapphire eyes. Not even his mother had his eyes. No one knew where they came from. She has arrived? His father asked. His voice was hard, edged with the clash of shields and scream of arrows. As far as greetings went, that was probably the kindest one he'd get. She shouldn't pose any threat or problem while she's here, Dorian said as calmly as he could. Picking Sardothian had been a gamble, a bet against his father's tolerance. He was about to see if it was worth it. See, these past couple paragraphs that I've read, legitimately good writing.
Yay.
Just enough description, not overdoing it, not super flowery. We get the relationship between them, and there's some tension in terms of, okay, clearly the king is not super fond of Dorian, and there is a spare. Dorian's place is not secure. Or at least not as secure as it could be. Good. This is fine. We're getting something.
Yay, something.
You think like every fool she's murdered. Dorian straightened as the king continued. She owes allegiance to none but herself and won't balk at putting a knife through your heart. Which is why she'll be fully capable of winning this competition of yours. His father said nothing, and Dorian went on, his heart racing. Come to think of it, the whole competition might be unnecessary. You say that because you're afraid of losing good coin. If only his father knew that he hadn't just ventured to find a champion to win gold, but also to get out, to get away from him for as long as he could manage. Dorian steeled his nerve, remembering the words he'd been brooding over the entire journey from Enderveer. I guarantee she'll be able to fulfill her duties. We truly don't need to train her. I've told you already, it's foolish to have this competition at all. If you do not mind your tongue, I'll have her use you for practice. And then what? Have Holland take the throne? Do not doubt me, Dorian, his father challenged. You might think this girl can win, but you forget that Duke Parrington is sponsoring Kane. You would have been better off picking a champion like him, forged in blood and iron on the battlefield. A true champion. Dorian stuffed his hands in his pockets. Don't you find the title a little ridiculous, given that our champions are no more than criminals? His father rose from his throne and pointed at the map painted on the far wall of his council chamber. I am the conqueror of this continent, and soon to be ruler of all Aeriel. You will not question me. Damn, scoreboard. Dorian, realizing how close he was to crossing a boundary between impertinence and rebellion, a boundary that he'd been very, very careful to maintain, mumbled his apologies. "We're at war with Wendlin," his father went on. "I have enemies all around. Who better to do my work than someone utterly grateful for being granted not only a second chance, but also wealth and the power of my name?" The king smiled when Dorian didn't reply. Dorian tried not to flinch as his father studied him. "Parrington tells me you behaved yourself well on this trip." "With Parrington as a watchdog, I couldn't do otherwise." "I'll not have some peasant woman banging on the gate, wailing that you've broken her heart." Dorian's face colored, but he did not drop his father's stare. "I've toiled too hard and long to establish my empire. You will not complicate it with an illegitimate heir. Marry a proper woman, then dally as you will after you give me a grandson or two. When you are king, you will understand consequences."
Okay, I'm getting in my own head again. Because he put his hands in his pockets. And he'd be wearing either riding pants or knickers, neither of which would have pockets.
Shit, did he put his... Yeah, stuffed his hands in his pockets, yep.
I'm just over here shaking,
See, and I'm just over here being legitimately invested in this power struggle between the king and the prince.
I mean, yeah, it's a good power struggle, but also I'm just over here
Pockets.
There's so many anachronisms to suffer through.
"When I am king, I won't declare control over Terrasen through thin claims of inheritance." Kael had warned him to watch his mouth when speaking to his father, but when he spoke to him like that, as if he were a pampered idiot. "Even if you offered them self-rule, those rebels wouldn't mount your head on a pike before the gates of Orinth." Wish I understood these references. "Perhaps alongside all my illegitimate heirs, if I'm so fortunate." The king gave him a poisonous smile. "My silver-tongued son." They watched each other in silence before Dorian spoke again. "Perhaps you should consider our difficulty in getting past Wendlin's naval defenses to be a sign that you should stop playing at being a god." "Playing?" The king smiled, his crooked teeth glowing yellow in the firelight. Jesus Christ.
Why is it glowing yellow? What
Brush. Get some rosemary, something. "I'm not playing, and this is not a game." Dorian's shoulders stiffened. "Though she may look pleasant, she's still a witch. You are to keep your distance, understood?" "Who? The assassin?" "She's dangerous, boy, even if you're sponsoring her. She wants one thing and one thing only. Don't think she won't use you to get it. If you court her, the consequences will not be pleasant, not from her and not from me." "And if I condescend to associate with her, what would you do, father? Throw me in the mines as well?" His father was upon him before Dorian could brace himself. The back of the king's hand connected with Dorian's cheek, and the prince staggered, but regained his countenance. His face throbbed, stinging so badly he fought to keep his eyes from watering. Slapped him with the ring hand.
Backhanded.
"Son or no son," the king snarled, "I am still your king. You will obey me, Dorian Havillard, or you will pay. I'll have no more of your questioning." Knowing he'd only cause more trouble for himself if he stayed, the crown prince of Aderlin bowed silently and left his father, eyes gleaming with barely controlled anger. So it started off with more dumb crap, stupid takes from Selena and ended with a legitimately good, intense scene between Dorian and the king.
Alas, we will not get their POV nearly as much as Selena.
And it's God damn it. I wish that I could enjoy just having a female lead. I wish that anything that she was doing right now was half as interesting as the last couple of pages were, but we don't even get, all this freedom fighter stuff is all happening off page. It's just mentioned that she used to do this kind of stuff. And then she fawns over dresses and then berates other women for liking dresses. She is every bad young adult heroine cliche.
Sad.
And then, Dorian isn't that much better. He's rebellious teenage boy against father kind of thing. And there seems to be some implications that a big part of why he doesn't like him, aside from just normal weird royal shit is he doesn't like his father's approach to ruling or the fact that he is trying to conquer the entire fucking continent mood. But there's something going on there. There's a good tense writing. There's tension and release. There's some threats, some stakes. We're starting to understand a little bit more about his thought process going into this.
Yeah.
That part is workable. You could do something with that. It's not the most original. It's not the most fantastic writing, but it's something.
It's something.
It's
just more than we can say about the rest of this book.
It's like I'm eating that fucking burrito. You know the one.
Yeah.
And I have finally made it through the country of lettuce, through the sea of sour cream, and into like some beans or something, you know? Like something actually with some girth, some weight to it.
Something that doesn't taste bad if it's solely that.
Or just wet and watery and nothing. You know, I have finally gotten to something that is nutritional and sustenance, and I'm not going to get nearly as much of it as I would like because I'm like, oh, I'm intrigued. What is his relationship like with his little brother? What do the other people think of this conquering? When did this conquering begin? Is he the one who started it? It's implied that he seems to have built the empire up, so this might be a campaign of his doing. What kind of military strategies are going into this? And, you know, probably I could answer some of these things by looking at the fucking map, but as I already said, I'm not going back to that. So, it shows promise. It shows that this book could be better than it is.
But nope, the next chapter is all about Selena.
Well, we'll deal with that as it comes. I hope you enjoy your evening out there, and please do come back next time for more dunking on Throne of Glass.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching, and a special thank you to my patrons. If you'd like to see your name here or in the description below, please consider joining my Patreon. Your support means so much to me and allows me to continue making content. If you want to support my content in different ways, consider buying my books, donating on Ko-fi, subscribing to the channel, or even just giving this video a like and comment. Any and everything is appreciated so much. Keep growing till next time, Rose Garden!